Question comes on engrossment. The chair recognizes Mr. Vargas of Haverhill. Court officers will please have the members take their seats and subdue their conversations. Chair recognizes Mr. Vargas of Haverhill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and through you to the members. I rise today in support of S2375, an act to promote and enhance civic engagement. I rise today recognizing that were it not for early experiences with civics, I would not be standing here today as a 24-year-old legislator. I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your leadership and continued commitment to young people across this Commonwealth. As a new member of this body, you took the time to meet with me and truly listen to how civic education and engagement played a role in my life and why this legislation was so important to me. I won't forget that. Chairman Sanchez, thank you for your continued guidance and stewardship. Your commitment to equity and investing in our young people is well reflected in this bill. Un millón de gracias. I also want to recognize Senate President Harriet Chandler and the gentle lady from Methuen, Representative Linda Dean Campbell, for their steadfast support and leadership in advancing civics. We've been talking about this bill for quite some time, and today, that hard work is certainly paying off. Representative Dean Campbell, I especially want to thank you for being not only a great partner on this bill, but a great partner in our delegation. To Chairwoman Peisch, I want to thank you not only for your leadership today, but for 8 years ago taking the first meeting with me and Teens Leading the Way as we embarked on an early journey to file civic education legislation. Your ability to find compromise and your commitment to enact meaningful education legislation is evident again today. Mr. Speaker, I rise today knowing that the times we live in are in some ways extraordinary. We live in a time with profound social strife, economic inequality, and to some degree, cynicism in our politics. This era is challenging the very definition of American, but I firmly believe that we are moving towards the most authentic definition of who we truly are and we're always meant to be as Americans. While our democratic institutions face the ultimate test today, citizens across the Commonwealth in this country are asking honest questions about our culture, our government, and our shared responsibility to one another. And while some may see this era as one that is unprecedented and discouraging, this climate has produced a renewed wave of civic engagement and optimism, a spark, an interest in politics, and a commitment to many who were previously disengaged. Our job now is to channel that wave of civic engagement into ways that empower our citizenry to create lasting, fact-based, and equitable change. We're doing that today. Today, this legislation ensures that civic education and engagement are codified and weaved through our K-12 legislation. This legislation rejects the notion that the memorization of the Bill of Rights is a proper assessment of civic preparedness, and instead embraces experiential learning and portfolio-based assessments on projects students choose to undertake. This bill is also about equity, because let's face it, the reality is that students of color and of low-income households are more likely to be tested on reciting the preamble instead of being asked to participate in our democratic process. I'm proud this bill includes an amendment to ensure that the Civics Project Trust Fund is focused and looks at ensuring that economically disadvantaged districts have the funds they need to do so. As a Haverhill High student, I remember feeling grateful for the opportunity to take AP Government, which required experiential learning. Mr. Jordan asked us to go out beyond the classroom and engage in our democracy. It was a vital part of my public education. But I also felt a little frustrated that most of my peers at the high school would not get exposed to the same inner workings of politics and government, mostly because they weren't fortunate enough to be placed in AP Government. Today, we are sending a strong message that no matter the academic level, no matter the socioeconomic status, every student in this Commonwealth deserves to be equipped with the experiences and the tools they need to allow them to implement change. 8 years ago, a bunch of young people from Haverhill, Lowell, Worcester, Everett, Lawrence, Springfield, Boston, and a few other resilient communities across this Commonwealth, some of them who are here today, came together through an organization called Teens Leading the Way, which is run by UTEC. We came together as young people from tough neighborhoods to talk candidly about what kind of legislation we believed should be enacted on Beacon Hill. Teens Leading the Way was our experiential learning. We picked civic education as our priority with the understanding that we were modeling it with our advocacy and the legislative strategy we chose to undertake as young people. We picked civics because we knew that unless we had an informed and engaged electorate, nothing else mattered. Public safety, our economy, youth development, our environment, healthcare, the success of every sector of our society is inextricably tied to the health of our democracy. We understood that members of our society need to not only understand how legislation is enacted or where their tax dollars are invested, but also to embrace their responsibility in keeping and strengthening our republic. What resulted from Teens Leading the Way and a retreat that we had up in Maine that I'll never forget was a civics bill that young people helped author, which eventually had bipartisan support and 50 co-sponsors. Many of you were present back then as well and co-sponsored it. Back then, we had a slogan that I promised to read into the record, and I hope you'll bear with me, Mr. Speaker. It was a mixtape that we read during a public hearing. And the slogan was, on the ground, on the grind, gotta do this, not talking a car, but civics is the movement. Today, we are enacting that movement. What we as Teens Leading the Way youth knew back then was that the average bill takes years to officially iron out all the details and come to a vote. What I did not know then was that I would be here as a member of this great body to cast a vote in favor of it. Today, I'm thinking about all the youth that worked on this bill. I'm thinking about the kids who will now get to engage directly in the political process as a result of this legislation. Without Teens Leading the Way, without the original bill, I wouldn't be standing here today as a 24-year-old Latino state representative from Haverhill. And so, my fellow members, how many students of this Commonwealth will now answer the call to serve because they are now afforded the opportunity to engage in government at an early age? How many will now question their role in our democratic process? How many will serve in this historic chamber? May this legislation empower and educate the next generation of civic leaders, especially those with untapped potential. Today, I cast my vote in honor of them, their futures, and our collective responsibility to preserve and strengthen our democracy. Thank you.